Hello, 22 Tony here with another discussion on collecting vintage and antique ammo. Today I'd like to talk a little bit about acquiring ammo. I have had a previous video where I talked about acquiring vintage and antique ammo, but I was pretty general in that video. I want to talk a little bit more about auctions in this one, so I want to get a little bit more specific. Now, there are many different types of auctions. Those of you that are watching a YouTube video are probably familiar with eBay. eBay has a very wide following and thousands of sellers, and there's quite a variety of items available. And there are, on a regular basis, vintage and antique ammo boxes. Now, I think the biggest downside to eBay is eBay has a rule against live ammunition. I believe it's some type of a political statement, but that's their option. It's their site. They can choose to offer whatever products they want. So when you're buying and selling on eBay, you're restricted to empty boxes. So, for example, this Peter's crate of 22 long rifle, or I'm sorry, it's just long rimfire target loads. This crate would be available, but if it was factory full, you would not be able to sell it because of the live ammo. Now, there are other options online for live ammo. For example, Gunbroker. I've mentioned Gunbroker on previous videos, and I'm a big fan. I have bought and sold on Gunbroker. They do allow live ammo, and again, as far as ammo goes, they have quite a variety available. Now, Gunbroker's not the only online gun auction. There are others around as well, and they're a great resource for people like us that are buying and selling and collecting vintage and antique ammo. Now, probably the hugest thing about Gunbroker is that because they are specific to guns and ammo, they tend to bring in items that are a little bit more obscure than you might find somewhere else. So, example, if you were out there looking for a 38 extra long rimfire cartridge, chances of finding that at your local gun shop or a local auction house are pretty much almost zero. But that is something that you might find on Gunbroker or the other online gun auctions. So pretty obscure item, but they're out there and they're available. Now, the downside to the national online auctions is that almost certainly when you buy on there, you're going to have to deal with shipping. Occasionally you might find somebody local within driving distance that's selling on there the item that you're looking for, but realistically, when you're buying on those auction houses, you're going to have to pay for shipping. Well, the problem with live ammo, and we've mentioned this before, is you can't ship that through the post office. They don't allow live ammo. So this one little 38 extra long rimfire cartridge, if you were to buy that on Gunbroker, the seller's going to want to make at least a couple of bucks on it. And then UPS is probably going to want $12 to $15 to ship it to you. Federal regulations require live ammo to be shipped ground service like UPS or FedEx Ground. So that's going to limit somewhat what we can buy on Gunbroker. Now, I've noticed recently more and more the local auction houses are not only selling locally. They've been, some of them in business many years, and for example, that's where I got this Peter's box at a local Thomasville, Pennsylvania auction house. I was at an auction. I wasn't even looking for guns and ammo that night. They didn't have any in their listing, and I wasn't expecting it. And they started pulling out some old advertising crates, and they brought up this Peter's crate. So of course I had to have it, even though I don't collect the wooden crates. It fit in with my collection, so I had to have it. So I actually only paid $11 for this because, again, it was there weren't ammo buyers there. It was a regular estate sale, and there just weren't the buyers there for this type of an item. So from a buyer point of view, this is great. If I can get things at a local auction and there's not a lot of buying competition, I end up getting things at a little bit better price. I don't collect the wooden crates, so I'm not sure what the value of this particular crate is. I've seen wooden ammo crates selling anywhere from about $30 to $300 or $400. I suspect the fact that this is 22 long and not long rifle, and that it's a target load, I'm guessing this is probably a fairly good box. I would think probably in the $50 or $60 range. at the right ammo auction, but again, because there wasn't anybody there looking for ammo, it worked out really well for me. So now, what I'm seeing though fairly recently, and it seems like it's going to be a growing thing, is these local auction houses are now starting to run online auctions as well. So while they're running the live auction, they also have the web access as well. So now for a buyer, this kind of gives me the best of both worlds. For me to sit through an entire auction just to get this one crate, for the hours that it might be until this comes up, it's generally not worth my time. But when these auction houses are running the online presence as well, I can bid online if I'm lucky enough to win the bid. Then I go and pick it up, and instead of spending 3 or 4 or 5 hours of my time, I spend the 15 minutes it takes to go in and pick up the item. So I actually have a few examples of this. Recently, one of our local York, Pennsylvania auction houses was running a hunting and fishing auction. And this particular one, it was a small sale, so they didn't run it in conjunction with a live auction. They ran it instead of a live auction. And it was just done online, but it was a local sale. And I got lucky, and I found a lot that had a bunch of different ammo in it, but what I was particularly interested in was this 32 automatic. It's a 32 automatic smokeless box. It's a 2-piece box, Remington. This box is circa 1920, so this is a really old box. It's not great condition, and unfortunately there aren't a lot of boxes from that era that are in real great condition. But I was lucky enough to get this. I didn't pay a lot of money for it. I didn't have to sit through an entire auction. I put an online bid. I won the bid. I showed up the next day. I paid for it, and I left. Another auction just real recently, one of our Glen Rock, Pennsylvania auction houses was running a gun auction. And they had a few lots of ammo. In fact, they had quite a few lots of ammo involved in that as well. But there were only a couple of lots that I was interested in. And in fact, I won one of those lots, and I got this nice Peters High Velocity 22 long rifle hollow point box. It's not in perfect condition, but for an older box, it is factory full with the right ammo, and you just don't see a lot of them around. I was lucky enough to get that. So there are a lot of advantages to the local auction house doing the online, that you get the advantage of local. You get the advantage of being able to pick up the item and know that you're getting what you paid for. You don't have to pay for the shipping. But there are also some maybe pitfalls to the online auctions. Once one of your local auction houses starts doing an online auction, they're opening that up to the whole world. Anybody that has internet access has access to the auction. So again, from a buyer's point of view, if I'm a seller, that's a great thing. From a buyer's point of view, though, it means I've got more competition. So if I'm interested in this particular Peters box at a local estate sale, I might be the only one there that has any interest whatsoever. But at an online auction, there could be potentially 50, 60, 100 different people that are interested in that particular box. So it can make things a little bit more difficult to find the right item at the right price. But the convenience involved, the fact that I didn't have to sit through an entire auction. In fact, at this particular auction, I was working that day. I couldn't have gone to the auction. If they hadn't offered the online presence, I wouldn't have even had a chance at this item, or I could have called and left a bid, but yeah, that has its own challenges. So the fact that I was able to sit at my desk at work and have an iPad open and bid on an item while I was working worked out really well for me. But again, there are other pitfalls to online auctions as well. The online auctioneer has a responsibility to the seller to make sure they're doing the best they can for the seller. And sometimes that means either putting a reserve on an item or maybe just refusing to sell an item. In fact, at the same auction that I did win this Peters box, there was another lot of ammo that I had an interest in. And well, there were about 6 or 8 different lots that I put bids on and got promptly outbid on. And that's okay. Again, there's competition, and there were people that were more interested than I was. But there was one particular lot that had a few boxes of 22, and there were a couple of older boxes on the tray. And I'd left a $15 bid. The auction house opened up the bid at $5, and nobody else bid. So I'm sitting there watching the online auction, waiting for him to say sold, and I was going to get it. And the auctioneer, for whatever reason, either There may have been a reserve on the item, or he just felt that he wasn't getting enough money, or possibly they missed the bid, I don't know. But for whatever reason, they passed on the lot. So I ended up losing out on a lot that I would have liked to have had. Now this causes a couple of problems for me. One is that not only did I miss out on a lot that I would have liked to have had, but also I ended up at that auction, I only ended up winning one lot. It was a $5 lot, and the auction house is about a 30-minute drive from me. So in addition to the $5 I paid, I drove 30 minutes each way, plus gas and time and everything involved in that. So you just got to be aware that that's the risk of an online auction. Even though I bid on at least 8 lots, I'm sure I bid on. It would have been nice if I'd got them all. It would have made splitting up that time a little bit more effective, but that's a risk you take. So you have to understand the risks when you get involved in these things. So anyway, this one went a little bit longer than I usually try to run my videos. I try to keep them short and to the point, but I did want you to think about some options. And what I've discussed today doesn't just apply to vintage and antique ammo. It applies to pretty much any collectible item. So I hope you got some good thoughts out of this, and hopefully that'll help you in the future. Please watch my other videos and please share. I appreciate your time. Thanks.